I would say ultimately, no. I don't think that's how they really truly feel. Does not mean that I don't feel at times that that's how they feel. If that makes sense. Like I don't. I think on a good day, if you sat down and you talked to someone, they would say, "No, I know this affects you just as much as or almost as much as it affects me." You know, but try to get them to admit that when they're going through their pain, when they're having a difficult time, and it's a very hard thing for someone to be rational, to be understanding. You know, how do you say, "I know you're in pain. I know I just brought you to the ER, but don't forget that I didn't get to do my plans, or I didn't get to do what I wanted to do," or even in a much less selfish way. I don't want to see my wife in pain. I don't want to see anyone in pain. So you might be the one in pain, but I feel like I'm in pain too when I'm there, holding her hand in the ER. Um, it does absolutely affect me, and I feel like just by sheer like what they have to go through all the time, that sometimes it's hard for them to remember that, yeah, you might be going through the physical pain, but I'm here dealing with mentally, emotionally, um, all the other parts of it that I signed up for, but I didn't ask for either. And I think that's a crucial part of that is it's important for them to understand, like, it's not just them. They're not the only ones suffering and dealing and going through something. It might be different for me than it is for her, but it's still a struggle. It's still a battle for me, just like it is for her. It's tough. I would say the best way is a don't broach the subject when they're in the ER, when they're going through pain. Like that's not going to help anyone. That's not going to help you. It's not going to help her. Um, you know, to a point, there's a way you can definitely talk about it. Communication is key. Talking about it is key. Letting them know kind of where you stand, how you feel, um, is very important. I don't know if they truly ever really understand your side of it as far as like what you go through. I feel like a lot of times in their mind it's still not as serious. It's downplayed a lot because they're the one going through the physical portion of it. They're the ones who have the illness. They have the disease. Um, so I think it can be very difficult um, to get through to them. But the key is communication. The key is talking and picking your battles and picking your spots. Like have this conversation in the right time. Don't just because you feel slighted, you feel hurt, your feelings are hurt, or whatever the case may be. You know, pick your spots. Like know when to talk to them, know when to discuss with them. And just don't give up. Just keep going at it. Um, it might take a long time for any of this to ever really sink into them. Um, so just keep going at it, understanding that they're going through something very difficult, very traumatic, and they're doing it every day of every year, every month. Um, so I definitely think that communication is the most important part for either you or them to understand each other. I can't really answer for everyone else, for other people. Every relationship's different, every person's different, whether it's the endo sufferer or the person who's in a relationship with that person. It doesn't have to be even a romantic relationship. It could be a friend. It could be a mom, a dad, a brother, sister, aunt, uncle, whatever. It's all different. Um, all I can say is that for me, it's remembering the person I fell in love with, remembering what they're going through. Try to put yourself to the best that you can, even though you can never be in their shoes. Put yourself the best you can into their shoes, um, and try to keep your mind open, keep your understanding open, your communication open with them. Um, to understand. You know, don't be so defensive all the time. Don't just be there, be understanding, be supportive, and understanding the person who you fell in love with. Um, and nobody wants to see the person they fell in love with um, in pain or suffering or uncomfortable. So just remember that. Remember that they're going through their own battle, their own internal battle, um, both physically and emotionally, and mentally. So just keep that in mind. That's what I do. And then just try to understand that there's almost it's like there's two people. There's the person who's suffering, and there's the person outside of their suffering. Um, and just remember that, and remember that the person who you're dealing with when they're in a lot of pain, when they're suffering, when you're at the hospital, whatever the case may be, um, that's not that might be who they are, but that's not just who they are. She absolutely has. It's a very frustrating thing at times for me, because I try to not ever make her feel that way, to never give her any ammunition. And again, I'm not a perfect human being. We fight. I might say something, but I do personally. I feel like when I say something that might make her think that, I feel like it's a lot of um, her kind of putting extra words into my sentences to kind of get to that point. I think a lot of that is just someone who's suffering with this illness can be very insecure, very unsure of themselves, and I think that this might sound cold and callous, but I think a lot of it is they're kind of putting words that they think that you're saying, or that they want to hear, and not literally want to hear, but like assumptions. They're putting words in to make assumptions as to what you mean, when sometimes it's just as simple as taking it for face value for what I'm saying. Um, it's a very unfortunate thing when this happens. I feel terrible. Like I'm not trying to make you feel a certain way or to make you feel bad. I know what you're going through is difficult. I know what you're going through is hard. I would never want to add anything to that, make that harder. So it's very saddening. It's very frustrating um, thing to go through for me. Because I try to always be supportive, be um, understanding, and I just feel like in this regard, this is something where um, it's kind of on both parties to make sure that communication is the best. Like I keep saying, communication, it's seriously the most important thing. Um, I would say 9 out of 10 of our fights are usually from miscommunication, misunderstandings. And then what's the point? What's the point of fighting over a misunderstanding or a miscommunication? If neither party um, meant to hurt someone's feelings, or if neither party meant to say anything derogatory or hurtful, then why are you fighting about it? Because clearly it was just, you know, complete miscommunication. So, I mean, that is definitely the most important part to prevent that from happening. And if it does happen, you know, there is nothing wrong with apologizing. Even though in your mind you didn't say anything wrong, you can just be sorry for hurting their feelings. You can be sorry for not making yourself clear enough so she understood what you were saying. Um, I think that's a big part of it is, swallow your pride, be humble, um, and just be apologetic the person's hurt. Whether you say anything wrong or not, just be apologetic that whatever it is that was said, that was done, was taken the wrong way, even if that's what it was. Just keep that communication open and talk things out. And that would be a big step in the right direction to preventing that and to helping that when it does come up. I mean, it definitely affects intimacy, and I mean, what man wants to have sex with a woman who's in pain or uncomfortable like that? That doesn't do anything for me like that. I'm not, and for those men out there who are married to someone with endometriosis or in a relationship with someone with endometriosis, um, who make their wives feel like they should give in when they're in pain, to me is just ludicrous. You're supposed to love this person, care for this person. So why do you want to do something for a selfish reason, for selfish pleasure, if the other party is not going to be happy, not going to be comfortable, not going to enjoy it? That to me makes no sense. I don't. understand that from a guy. Like, I don't understand why anyone would do that, why anyone would expect that. Um, so the only message I would have to those women who feel like they need to give in is don't. Like, I can wait. I'll be okay. Um, Not to get too personal, but there's other stuff I can do to take care of myself. Like, that's the truth. Like, to me, if you feel the need that you have to give in when you don't think that you are ready or able or comfortable, it's not worth being with that person. To me, like, that's just from my perspective. Like, why? Be with someone who understands your situation, cares for you, loves you, and can be patient for you. Um, and I'm not just saying any woman who's in that position to just get up and leave their guy today. Like, you know, again, communication, talk, understand, try to understand him. Maybe he has, maybe he's not fully understanding you. Communication is important. Have a dialogue, have a talk. Try to understand each other and get to that point. But I definitely would say don't ever feel like you have to give in for sex just because that's what is expected of you. Because that, to me, that's not fair. That's not right. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your participation, and your support. And I hope you find this video and this session beneficial, informative. This is all just from my perspective. I'm not an expert on anything. This is just kind of my personal experiences, what I've learned from being married to someone who suffers, for over 5 years now. Um, if you're a endo sufferer, um, stay strong. Be persistent. But I'm not going to offer my apologies or condolences. Everyone has a cross to bear. Everyone has their struggles in life. This is yours. It's unfortunate, but I do believe that whatever doesn't it doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and it does. I think it does. It definitely it builds character. It builds strength. And if you can kind of look at it and go, you know, with a positive outlook, with a positive attitude, um, it will help you. It will get you, through. And again, this is just, from someone who doesn't suffer from its perspective. What I've learned dealing with my wife, what I've learned with other people that I know. Um, just keep going. Don't give up. Just keep going. And if you are someone who supports, an endo sufferer, if you're, someone like in my shoes, just try to be understanding. They are going through a very difficult, um, ultimately life, a difficult life they have to go through, different challenges. So just be supportive, be understanding, be kind, um, and just keep moving forward with them, because they can't do it without you. Um, yeah, that's all I got for today. I appreciate all of you, and have a good day.